Hello and welcome on my tutorial of all-in-one service business template where I explain the template step by step, every tab and every feature that offers. First of all, I'd like to thank you for being here and for choosing one of my templates. And I'm sorry for my English, but it's not I'm not a native speaker, as you can tell. So let's start with the template. First of all, just like any other template from Serenatas, you have to start with the Instructions tab. Instructions tab usually separated into sections, which each section is a tab. So you can find all the details for every tab over here. After that, feel free to explore it and start using it. And if you have any question or you need any help or anything, don't hesitate to contact me, either through email, through Etsy chat, through our website. I usually respond within a few hours. So let's start with setup page. Within setup page, you can set the categories, the currency, the date you start using the template, any fundamental entry the template need in order to start working and make your life easier. For example, here you have to list all your categories for the client management tab. For example, if I go over the client management tab, under the type, you can see there is a drop down. This drop down contains the type of business your client has. In order to avoid multiple entries and typing constantly, this drop down gets everything from this section. So feel free to remove all these details and submit yours. After that, let's go on status, priority and payment methods. Similarly, there is a drop down here where you can assign a status to that client, a priority or a payment method, and you can predefine that drop down list from here. Similarly for contact type, next action, and don't forget to mention this section over here. Over here you can set your own currency. For example, right now we have the dollar. You can have any currency you want. For example, you might want something like that. Feel free to submit any currency symbol you'd like to see in the whole template. Next, select the date where your week starts. Either it's Monday, either it's Sunday. So the calendar will be updated accordingly. After that, set the month and year you want the template start counting from. Usually, my products, when it comes to finance, has a 12-month period. For example, in 12-month view, the selected month, in our case January of 2026, have been selected from the setup page. So over here, we submit that I want to start using the template from January of 2026. So anything over here, either it's monthly view, will give me a list of 12 months starting with the selected month, and also the custom view tab starting with the selected month and year. So it's very important to set your first month that you're starting using this template, or your financial or your fiscal year, whatever you want. Also keep in mind that in case you're using this template for multiple years, every time you have to change the month or year for the year you start using. There is no need to erase any entries. For example, we have a few entries for the 2026 as a sample. When I start submitting entries for the 2027, okay, it's important in order to view this entry to select January 2027, because if I leave it like this, in this summary, I won't have it. Okay, so you can navigate the template even if you have entries for multiple. If you have entries for multiple years, you can navigate back and forth by changing the month and year over here. Next, let's go to service catalog. Here you have to submit all the services that you offer. You can set a duration if you want, let's say 1 hour, and the amount that you're charging. This is very helpful for the entries and invoices we will see later. After that, you can predefine a status and priority for the task tab. Okay. Also, you can select from a list of symbols for each task, for each status. I'm sorry. For example, for completed, I've selected the green check mark. For cancelled, the red X, etc. Okay. After you define your status and priority list, you have to list all your employees or colleagues you want where there is a chance to delegate a task on any of them. That way, by creating a list of up to 20 employees or colleagues, you can select on a task if you want to delegate it to someone. For example, this task delegated to Michael. That way you have a clear list for every task and its progress. Next, the finance section. For the income and expense tabs of this template, you have first to submit all your incomes. Okay, you can list up to 40 incomes and up to 40 expenses. You can also set monthly goals for each month. And if you have any salesperson or account manager, you can list their names over here. So this is pretty much everything about the setup page. Okay, let's go now, starting with the client management tab. Over here, you have a database where you can list all your clients, either by assigning a number or a code for each client, assigning the client company's name, what type of business is it, their emails, phone numbers, address. Then you can set a status on them based on the predefined categories we've submitted on the setup page. We can assign a priority for that client, and the payment method usually our client prefer. Next, there is a last update column where you can update it based on the date you've made any change for that client. After that, we have a date section which can be used in any way you want. You can submit the date for that client, start date, end date, maybe for a contract. Of course, you can hide it if you don't want these columns. Also, there is a column for when contract starts, when contract ends. Lastly, there is a column to make any entries for notes, preferences, or any special request you have or your client have. Also, at the top, you will notice a highlighter where you can select your client and the template will highlight it in order to locate it easily. After you create the list for your clients, let's go on the communication log tab. This tab is a great tab to list every communication you had with a client. For example, over here, we had a communication with Green Tech Innovations. The template brings the phone number automatically based on the client we select. When that communication took place, let's say today, we talked with Michael through phone call. For what service did we talk about? For service number 6. Answered, yes. Next action, email. When? At the end of the month. Did we talk about any offer or anything? Yes, let's say at. And any notes or something that I'd like to have as a reference for this communication? Okay. Also, similarly to the client management tab, we have a client highlighter over here, where by selecting Smith & Co, this client will be highlighted. And that's pretty much everything about the communication log. Also, the communication log tab offers a filter option where you can select for any column the filter that you'd like to apply. For example, let's say I want to see only Smith & Co client. Clear all, and I'm selecting only this one. Now I have the entries only for this customer. Okay. Going back here, select all, okay, and back to normal. So that's pretty much everything about the communication log tab. Let's go now on the task and project tab. Over here, you can list any task you want. Either it's for a client or it's just for your reference or for your tracking. For example, design new logo for Creative Minds and agency. We started, okay. It's medium priority with a due date wrong. Anyway, still in progress. Delegate it to no one. Any note here. And here you submit all your tasks. Also, if there is a task for today, let's say this one, will be highlighted and also will be displayed up here. Maybe this one. Okay. Also, when the task considered done, you simply click the checkbox over here and change the status to completed. That way, this task is completed. Okay, perfect. And that's everything about our task project tab. I believe till now it's pretty straightforward. We have databases where we can track everything, submit the dates, the tasks or clients or communications. Now let's go on the Invoices tab. Over here, you can track all your invoices. For example, I have now an invoice with number today for Johnson Marketing Company. It's an invoice, might be draft or offer. Date sent today with a due date at the end of the month. Okay. Invoice status is a column which shows if an invoice is unpaid, fully paid, part paid, or overpaid. However, gives you the option to click the drop down and assign cancelled. Keep in mind that by assigning cancelled, you typically overwrite the formula, because each one of these cells, in order to display if an invoice is fully paid, part paid, or unpaid, runs a formula behind it. By making an entry manually, you are replacing that formula with a manual entry, in this case cancelled. So keep in mind to assign cancelled only if it's absolutely necessary and there is no case for changing the entry of this column. However, of course, in case you change your mind, you can simply click one cell above, one cell after, and drag it to that cell in order to recover the formula. Okay, so the invoice status is automatically unless you assign cancelled status. Next, last update. Let's say today, because today they paid an amount of 200. Okay, last payment was also today. Here I'm submitting any details and any services, quantities we had in this invoice. We offer 5% discount and 10% tax. We will get paid through bank transfer, right? And we offer him, let's say, service number 8. We can list up to 6 services. Okay, service 1, service 2, service 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so right now we've submitted 4 hours with $50 each, gives us 200. $10 is the discount and $19 is the tax. So gives us a $209 total amount. The customer paid already 200, so we have a due amount of $9. And the invoice tax turned into part paid. If we make this amount, it's fully paid now. Okay, so now I have a due amount of $59. Okay, also over here we can hide or unhide services in case we don't want to use them. At the end, we have notes and additional informations for every entry. So that's everything about the Invoices tab. You can track all your invoices over here, submit the payments, and get notifications on the Calendar tab that we will see later. Let's move now on the Print Invoice tab. It's a tab which gives us an invoice ready to print simply by clicking the invoice we want to print. Let's see this one. Keep in mind to always have one. If you select another one, it will be highlighted in order to remove something. Okay, so now I've selected invoice 001 to Johnson Marketing, and I'm coming over here, bill to Johnson Marketing, invoice number, issue date, due date, everything, and it's ready for print. In order to print it, you can select it, go File, go Print. You have an overview over here, current sheet, selected cells, the dimension you want, okay, fit to width, and it's ready for print. Also, you can set narrow in case you have a different size. Next, and it's ready to print. Also, the logo and the details over here can also change through setup page, something that I forgot to mention. You can enter your logo here, set your company's name, street address, your city, state, zip code, phone number, email, and your website. By submitting these details over here, the template will generate the invoice with all the details here, ready for print. And that's everything about Invoice and Print Invoice tab. Let's move now on the finance part of this template. The finance part of this template has two main tabs, which for entries, one for your income entries and one for your expense entries. Over here, you're submitting your incomes, and over here, your expenses. It's separated for easy reference and use. So let's start with income entry. On income entry tab, as you can see, as you can see, you can submit an invoice number, let's say invoice 001, date, let's say today, because we get paid, service charges, okay. Let's remember that everything submitted here for income or expense entries, all the categories should be predefined over here. Okay, so coming back here, I have service charges, let's say 150 with 10% tax, was from Johnson Marketing, bank transfer. Okay, any notes and details, and if we had any salesperson or someone that we have to assign to that income, let's say Jane. So now, if the template sees a reference for that entry with an invoice, gives us a view invoice clickable cell over here. The match happening based on the invoice number. So if I had just invoice 01, I'll get no clickable button over here. Since the template sees a match with an invoice, gives me a clickable button over here and takes me directly to that entry. Okay, so over here I'm submitting every income transaction I have. Also, this help column over here is just for your reference or in case of reconciliation. We will see later. Okay, well, and that's pretty much everything about this tab. Also, you have a highlighter over here, just like the most of the tabs, where you can select which entry you'd like to highlight, okay, or if you want any specific category or any specific invoice. Okay, perfect. Let's go now on the expense entry tab. It's almost the same, just for expenses. Similarly, for reconciliation purpose, any expense ID you want to track or invoice, the date that expense took place, category, amount, any tax, net amount and tax amount will be calculated automatically. That's why it's color coded compared to the white ones. Payment method and any notes. Also, keep in mind that you can predefine a tax rate over here. Okay, so if I usually don't have or don't charge tax on my entries, I set this one to 0. Okay, and simply submit tax on those entries only that tax applied. For example, on this one, I had 10%. Okay, the template will calculate it. If you usually charge tax, it's better to have a predefined tax rate over here, so the template calculates it always, unless you state it differently. Okay, so that's pretty much everything with the expense entry tab. It's similarly to the income entry tab. Let's go now on the monthly view. Monthly view tab contains only two drop downs that you can change: selecting month and the amount that you'd like to view. In our case, we have selected March of 2026 and would like summaries for the total amount. We can ask for net amount or tax amount. As you can see on these entries, because we've set 0%, we have no tax. If we change it to tax percent, to 10%, I'm sorry, okay, 10% is going to every entry, and as you can see, we have tax now. So you can choose which month you'd like to view and what amount. Also, you have an income breakdown, expense breakdown, and few graphs for reference. Also, there is a summary bar on the left, shows the total income for the selected month, total expenses, income after tax, month's profit, okay, which is income after tax minus expenses. And what's the month's profit goal based on the profit we've submitted here. Profit goal we've submitted here. So monthly tab gives us summaries for the selected month. Okay, let's go now 12-month view tab. In this tab, just like the monthly view tab, you can select between total, net or tax amount for income or expenses, and the template will calculate by each category the amount for each month and give you summary for the whole 12-month period for each category. For example, we had 5,000 services charges. For January, almost 900. Okay, and we have breakdown for every month for income and for expenses. We also have a summary bar over here. Let me make it smaller. A summary bar over here that summarizes the total income, total expenses, total profit, income after tax, and annual profit goal. Okay, let's go further down where we have a cash flow month by month, showing our net income for each month, the total expenses, and the monthly profit. Also brings the monthly profit goal that we've set on the setup page and gives us the goal progress. Over here, for example, we are at 91%. Also gives us the year-to-date profit and year's goal progress. Lastly, on this tab, there is a section for VAT sales tax. This is a manual entry section just for your help in order to track what you've collected and what you've paid, letting you know what's left in your pocket. This is manual entry because every company, every state, every country has different tax calculation method. So submit here what you've collected. For example, for February, we collected 130.13. For February, yeah. Okay. And 43.46. So the difference is 86.67. Okay, that way you can track your VAT or tax. Next, let's go on our last finance tab, where you can set your own date range and get summaries. For example, let's say I want till 14. Now I get summaries only for 2 weeks, or I can make it that way. For example, Monday to Monday. Okay, and now I get summaries only for the selected period, being able to see the total, net, and tax amount for each category, either it's income or expense. Also, for each expense category, you can assign either if it's direct or operating cost in order to get different summaries over here. So you can see your gross profit, revenue, income loss, gross revenue, the total number of your transactions, and your expenses. And that's it. All you have to do is set your period and assign a type on these expenses. The template does the rest. After that, we have the reconciliation tab. Over here, simply select if you want to get incomes or expenses. Let's say expenses. Checked, unchecked. Let's say unchecked from 1st of 2026, okay, till 31, 2026. Okay, now I get the transactions based on this. Not reconciled 26. If I come over here and let's say, let me find an entry, this one, okay, and come over here, 25. That's the only one I reconciled, okay, not reconciled, all this. So that's a very easy and helpful tab to track all your transactions and verify them. All you have to do is filter the results with these 4 cells. Let's go now on the balance tab. Balance tab is a tab where you can see what's happening in each one of your payment methods. Let's say 1st of 2026 till today. That should be my balance. Or I can check how it was by the end of the month, by the end of January. Also select if I want the total or net amounts for income or expense. Okay, the total balance right now is this one. So set your date range, select till today if you want, and select if you want to view total or net amount balance for your payment methods. You can also set an old enough date, let's say, to have the maximum range, okay? And that's a balance tab. Let's go now on the budget tab, which is very easy to use. Budget tab brings all the incomes and all the expense categories, gives you the actual number okay, after we've set if we had any previous balance, the start date for budget and end date gives us the actual number, the percentage, in order to reach our goal. Okay, so we've said that for subscriptions, we have $400 budget, okay, from subscriptions. From commissions, 1,000. And for services, let's say 400. Similarly for expenses, we've set a budget for software 100, marketing and ads 100, etc. Gives us what's left to spend and the previous balance, total income, expenses vs the budget. Okay, so that's the budget tab. Simply set your budget for each category. Okay, set your previous balance if you had or 0 if you hadn't, and set your date range. Each month you can come over here and set the budget for the next month. Okay, let's say now and okay, so that's everything about budget tab. Let's go now into our last 2 tabs, which is calendar and dashboard. Starting with calendar, on the calendar you can get tasks, invoices and communications. Also, you can make your own entries. That's not an invoice payment or a task or a communication. So the calendar displays all your entries that have a due date usually. For example, if I come over here, I have a due date for these 2, Manage CRM and Serenata's Journey Client Tracker. So for today, I have these 2. they're listed over here. You can navigate on each month by selecting the month and year. You can go the previous year, okay, previous month, don't have anything, okay, okay, okay. So you can navigate on every month you want. The dates are just for test purposes, and we list your tasks, any communication that has a due date, okay, and any invoice. For example, we have these 3 invoices with a due date for 28th of December. So if I come over here, let's find LM09876. Okay, it's this one, unpaid, yes, with due date 28th of December. Okay, so we get notifications for everything over here. Also, there is a small today summary section up here, which lists all the entries are for today. Also, over here, we're getting a list of all the entries for the selected month. Okay, and here we're making our own entries. Also, if you want, you can assign status on tasks that you don't want to be displayed over here. For example, right now I've selected the calendar not display cancelled and completed. You might want those which delegate. So the tasks that delegate, that have delegate status, okay, won't be displayed. If I saw right, we had a few, yes. So that's everything with the calendar tab. Let's go now on our last tab, which is the dashboard. Dashboard summarize a few things for your reference. For example, up here, today's summary, what we have for today, what we have for tomorrow. For example, we have nothing for tomorrow, but if I come over here, for example, and make this one for tomorrow, okay, perfect. Also, client management section. By selecting a client, we get his details, last 5 communications we had with the note on each communication, and any task that's uncompleted for that client with the due date and if delegated to someone. Okay, perfect. So that's the client section. We have an invoice management section where we can view the invoices that are paid, fully paid, unpaid, okay, and if any of these invoices are for the selected client, if we want a list for the invoice for the selected client over here, we simply click okay, the checkbox over here, and we'll bring only the invoice for this client. If we want for another client, okay, we don't have any fully paid, let's make it unpaid, yes. Okay, we have this invoice as unpaid from that client, or all unpaid invoices. Okay, also, if there are more than 10 entries, you can navigate from the page over here, so you can see up to 50 invoices. Let's go now over here, where we can have a summary for the invoices. For example, we can set a period and view the total invoices, fully paid, unpaid, the invoiced amount, paid amount, and the due amount. Also, we can set a specific date range, let's say, okay, perfect. Also, we can compare it with another period, and the graphs on the left will be updated accordingly. Also, further below, we have a database which shows for each month, starting by the, as we can see, the selected month and year from here, okay, the total income, expense, new clients, communications, completed task, everything for each month. Also, we have these 2 sections, one where we can filter all the tasks by priority. For example, I have these 4 tasks with very high priority. uncompleted tasks and delegated tasks. These are hyperlinks that takes us directly to the tab, and 2 more graphs for incomes and expenses and new clients vs total invoices. And that's pretty much everything about the dashboard tab. It's very simple. You can set your client, view your invoices for the selected client, navigate through other pages if there are more than 10 results. The results are displayed over here. Get summaries for your invoices for the selected period. Get a list of all the tasks based on the selected priority over here. Get summaries for all of these for each month. And of course, very useful graphs. So that's pretty much everything about my all-in-one service business template. Thank you for staying with me on this tutorial, and don't hesitate to contact me if you have any question or if you need anything. Remember, I'm just a message away. Thank you, until next time, take care. Bye.